My name's Todd Bennett,
I'm Nathaniel Byer.
and we're Team Crazy Goldfish. And this year, we developed a sea level rise app that will show how the sea levels will rise around the coastal United States. I did the Android development in MotoDev,
I did the graphics in Photoshop and Maya 3D.
and the purpose for this is Florida is on top of the list for the nation's sea level rise risk. So we went ahead and did this app so that people can be made aware of what's going to happen over the next 100 years so that preparations can be made in order to combat the sea level rise. So in order to develop this app, I had to download the Google API that is part of a different SDK than the normal Android 2.2. So I had to download that and install it and use that as my SDK in order to develop this app. What you have to do is set up a map in order to show which areas you want. After that map is set up, you then have to create overlays. And the way to create these overlays, you have to get the images to start with. Once you have those images, there's actually a site on Google that you can go to that you put in the image and you line it up on the Google Maps so that it's exactly where it needs to go. Once you line it up and you're comfortable with it, it gives you an actual algorithm to run or a command line script to run in another program to translate that image and assign it geocodes based on where you lined it up on the map on the Google site. So once you get that command line prompt, you then have to go to GDL Translate, type in that command from the command prompt, and it goes ahead and takes your images and assigns all the geocode information to it. Now, once you have your images with all the proper geocoding, you then have to take those images and chop them up into tiles. Once you chop them up into tiles, they're ready to use. But the problem is you don't just have to chop them up in tiles, you have to chop them up in tiles for every zoom level that you want to support. So if you want to support zoom level from, viewing the Earth from outer space all the way down to the highest level, which I believe is zoom 20, then you have to actually run another program called mAPP tiler that goes ahead and tiles these images for you and gives you all of the different tiles for each zoom level that you have. Then once you have your tiles, you have to store them someplace. In order for the phone app to access them, they'd have to be out on the internet somewhere. After you do that, you have to at that point subclass the overlay class. Now the overlay class is what actually draws, for Google Maps, the images onto your screen. So you have to subclass that in order to take advantage of the methods that it already has in order to take those tiled images and put them on top of the Google Map images. So one of the things in order to do that is you have to be able to reference those tile images based on what's being shown on the screen from the Google Maps. So you then have to basically get all of the tiles that are currently being shown on the screen. Once you have that set of tile overlays, you then have to take the geocodes, the latitude and longitudes for each tile, and convert them to X and Y coordinates. Once you have the X and Y coordinates for each tile, you take the X and Y coordinates along with the zoom level, and that gives you your folder structure for where you're storing the tiles. So it'll be stored as in folder 13 for zoom level 13, then it'll have a number which is the X coordinate 3150, and then the name of the image itself. After you get down to the once you go from the zoom level folder to the X coordinate folder, the actual name of the image is the Y coordinate .png. So you use that information to then go out and fetch the proper tiles that you need to put on, and then you draw them on top of your Google Maps. So it sounds a lot easier than it actually is. In theory, it sounds very, very simple. It's actually very difficult to go ahead and subclass that overlay class in order to get all of those tiles and then correctly put the right ones on top. Not only that, you have to have it continually do that in case the user zooms in or out. It has to go back and get the correct images and tiles for the zoom level. And on top of that, if they move the map, it has to do the same thing where once the map moves, it has to go out and get new tiles. So that's what has to be done, and that's what was done in the development of the actual app itself. Now, we also added a disclaimer that gives an alert dialog when you first log in that you have to agree to in order to use this app. We also have a splash screen that pops up as the app is actually loading, and then we also created a credits activity which pops up with the click of a I button on the bottom of the screen, so you can see some information about who developed it and who contributed to the development of the app. And those are basically all the screens for our app, and that's how it works, and that's what it does. Thank you.